Welcome into a special presentation by Tribal Council Chat, but this is not Tribal Council Chat. This is Stanley Cup Chat.
Yeah, not tribal council chat at all. If you're not a hockey fan, don't worry. You feel free to X out of this episode and we won't be offended. But for those of you who do enjoy our hockey references, Bruce and I thought it would be fun to just get on tribal council chat and make our playoff predictions. Playoffs start this Saturday.
But if you don't listen, still hit the little button that says Mark is played so the numbers get boosted.
Yeah,
That helps
and
out.
and feel free to like and subscribe for more Survivor content coming your way every week.
Yeah, so we've alluded a little bit. Brett and I are both big sports fans in general. We follow a bunch of different sports. Hockey is
Yeah.
my favorite, ironically, because
He's the American,
but his favorite
I'm
is
the
soccer.
Canadian, and my favorite sport is soccer. How that works, that's a discussion for other people.
I do love that he called it soccer, and I might see if Kevin can clip that for one of his TikTok videos.
I'm
But
talking to an American, not a European.
you're also not a European.
I know, but I didn't fight a revolutionary war against the British either.
We didn't just fight it, we won it. Yeah!
We won 2 World Wars and a World Cup
We won the same 2 world wars.
that you got into very late.
I mean, yes, but very helpful still.
Yes.
Especially on with World War II on the Pacific front.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can think of 2 reasons that were dropped that the war in Japan ended quicker. But this is not a World War II podcast, surprisingly. So,
Yeah, it's not either.
so where do we want to start with this bracket?
Um, let's get going. I don't know what map you have up, but any division you have, I was thinking we go to Metropolitan first.
Yeah, I'll show you what I have, what I'm working with on the screen. Let me turn my brightness
Okay.
down. I just filled this out through the NHL's website, so it's
All
got
right, great.
the
You
full.
you don't have, you can put it down. We don't want to spoil it.
Oh, they can't see it that well.
I didn't look, but I could see the whole thing.
Oh,
But Metropolitan sound like a good place to start for you.
yeah.
All right. So first series first, we got the number 1 ranked, number 2 in the league, Washington Capitals, against the final wildcard team, Les Canadiens de Montréal.
Yeah, I like both of these teams. I've always been an Ovechkin guy. The Capitals had former Blue TJ Oshie for a while, who I think is basically retired now, but not officially. I don't know what's going on there. But and I've always kind of liked the Canadians for some reason. I can't really explain why. They've had they've had players I like. I big PK Subban fan, for example. Carey Price was incredible. But like I don't know, I've just always kind of liked them as a team. I have Washington winning this series pretty easily. Like you said, they're the second best team in the league.
Yep.
They've got Ovechkin, who, despite being, has to be one of the oldest players in the league at this point,
And still playing amazing.
scored 30 plus goals still.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know if you caught this. He said today he's not retiring this year.
I assumed he wasn't. If he plays 2 more years, I think he has a shot to get to 1,000 if he keeps going at this rate.
It's true. So you said that Washington will win it pretty easily. How many games?
I have it in 5.
I have Washington in 5 as well.
I don't have any sweeps, but
Um,
if there was one, it would be this series.
yeah, I also have Washington in 5. I, to be honest, as a Ottawa Senators fan who lives in a one of the larger French-speaking communities in Ottawa, we still have a lot of leftover Habs fans who refuse to adopt the hometown team. So I've never been a Montreal fan. I've always hated that team, not as much as another team that we're going to be talking about later, but almost as much as that team. Um, but I it's a big story for Montreal. It's a big story for French Canada that Montreal's back in the playoffs and that the rebuild was completed so quickly.
Yeah.
But I think that it ends here. Look out for this team, though, maybe in a couple years to make another big run.
And, when I was a kid, I want to say maybe the 09-10 season, 11-10, back when the playoffs weren't three from each division and two wild cards a conference, and it was just one through eight. They snuck in as an 8 seed and beat a 1 seed in the first round. It was like Pittsburgh or someone, or Washington maybe.
That's right.
So they've done this before, but they had Carey Price and Yaroslav Halak back then. So
that they did.
They don't have I can't tell you who their goal. I don't know. They have a Rookie of the Year candidate, maybe even Rookie of the Year front runner. I don't know if I could name anyone else on that team.
You're right. All right, so moving from then on, that one's we think is going to be pretty easy. I think this one's going to be one of the tighter series. And next is Carolina against New Jersey.
I am looking forward to watching this. Carolina, Sebastian Aho is really fun to watch. Their captain, Jordan Stahl, he's been there forever.
He has. I remember back when he was a very young player.
I remember him with the Penguins when his brother Eric was the captain of the Hurricanes at that same time. So, two brothers have gone on to be captains of the same team, which is kind of fun.
That's fascinating. I'm going to go for this series and say New Jersey in 6.
I said the same thing. I think Aho's great. Jordan Stahl is still playing at a high level relative to his age. But you look at goalie play, and I just drew a complete blank on his name. But New Jersey has a really solid goaltender.
Yeah.
I'm going to look that up. But
goaltending is what wins in the playoffs. And that's where I can see some upsets happening.
That's what I'm banking on for my own personal interests.
But there's two really good goalies in that season. In that series. We'll get
Jacob
to it
Markstrom is...
Yeah.
And their backup is Jake Allen, who used to play for the Blues. So...
All right. Anything to add here before we go out west? I'm thinking we leave our two teams series of divisions for the end.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go out west. And we're going to get the number 2 in the West, Vegas Golden Knights, against the wild card team, Minnesota Wild.
I think this series will be only slightly more competitive than Washington and Montreal, maybe even less. I have it at 5 games, but I mean, Minnesota has not been playing good down the stretch.
Yeah.
The Blues caught up to them and were ahead of them for wild card 1 for a few days there. And at one point it was thought they'd be a lock for wild card 1.
Yeah. I was disappointed to see you guys want wild card 1. I would have much rather to watch a St. Louis Vegas series as opposed to the series we got, but hey, that's the way it is. I'm going for a sweep for the Golden Knights.
Here's my thought process on the Blues, by the way, since you mentioned it. Honestly, Vegas scares me more to play against than Winnipeg does. But the second round, I'd rather be in the Pacific. I would have rather faced Edmonton or the Kings than Dallas or Colorado, because I hate playing against Colorado. I kind of just hate the Avs in general at this point. But
that you do.
For a few different reasons. It's not just one thing. But
so you said Vegas in 5?
Vegas in 5, because not only has Minnesota been slow down the stretch, Vegas shows up strong in the playoffs every year. And look at their roster. You've got Eichel. You've got Hanifin. They lost Marchessault to Nashville. Nashville had a weird offseason last year. They signed a bunch of big names and then were terrible. But they've got Alex Pietrangelo.
That sounds like an Ottawa offseason for the last few years.
Do what?
So it sounds like an Ottawa offseason for the last few years.
They signed like 8 guys. They signed like Marchessault. They signed Steven Stamkos, and the
Yeah.
Predators were like one of the worst teams in the league. But the
It's
Knights roster is just stacked. They've got, unfortunately, Mark Stone is a good player for them. I'm
yeah.
not his biggest fan. They've got Ivan Barbashev, who they got from the Blues in a
I'm
trade.
just
They've
you
got
bringing up
Alex
the name Mug
Pietrangelo.
Stone. You bringing up the name Mug Stone. I'm just not a big fan of the expansion draft that Vegas got.
What's funny is, yeah, Seattle got an expansion draft that worked the same way Vegas did. Vegas has been good every year of their existence, and Seattle stinks, except for one
Yeah.
year they made the playoffs.
Yeah. Very true.
But expansion teams are supposed to stink. That's the normal. I can't explain Vegas, but
I mean, you should have seen if go back and look at how difficult it was as an expansion team for Ottawa.
yeah.
That team is one of the worst of all time.
Well, it's because they play in a province that is painted blue, and they're not blue. So I kid.
We'll see.
No. I think Vegas is just too overpowering. They've got their offense is loaded. They've got Alex Pietrangelo on defense, who I love. If the Blues can't win, I might be rooting for Vegas because I tend to root for teams that have former Blues players. And they've got Petro, who was our captain and the first Blue to ever hoist the cup. They've got Barbashev. They brought Brandon Saad in halfway through the season when we terminated his and mutually parted ways with him. I don't know what he's done for them. And like we
All
said,
right.
goaltending, they've got Robin Leonard and
Another former senator.
Minnesota has Philip Gustafson in net as their starter.
That's going to be fun. Two former senators playing each other in a series in goal.
Leonard used to be a senator.
Yep.
Nice. And Fleury has played for both of these teams.
Yeah.
Leonard took Fleury's job in Vegas.
So you mentioned it. Our next series is the Los Angeles Kings, second place in the division, against the Edmonton Oilers in third. This is surprising to see Edmonton as a third place team. They've been so dominant for the last few years, coming as close as you can to getting a cup without winning it one.
I just now realized they were. I assumed they were second in that. I thought I have LA in 6. I thought I was picking an upset here, but technically, I guess
that
not.
You're not.
Edmonton will be favored though, so like by that standard, I still did pick an upset here because Edmonton's going to be the betting favorite.
Yeah, you still did pick an upset. If you do call this right, Vegas against Los Angeles would just be so fun for how much movement between those two cities they have. But I'm going to go with what you're stating as the favorite. Connor McDavid is just too good. I'm going to say Edmonton in 6 games.
McDavid's incredible, and he doesn't even lead that team in goals because he leads Draisaitl all the time.
Yeah.
My question is, outside of those two players, because I don't know a ton about that team, and LA's been really hot. You said goaltending is what wins in the playoffs. The other thing is it's not always who the best team is, but who the hottest team is.
You're right.
LA's been playing really well lately. They stole that second spot in the Pacific.
That they have.
I mean, they play a really... I don't know if I want to say they play a really physical brand, but they can kind of... Defensively, they can slow down McDavid and Draisaitl and force the rest of Edmonton's guys, like a Darnell Nurse, for example, to have to step up. Can they do it?
Yeah.
And LA's hot, so that's where I'm going. That's one of my upset picks. I'm probably wrong.
Well, we'll see. I mean, now we can say that both our brackets have a difference.
Yeah, finally.
All right. So, should we jump into the local rivalries next and leave you set for last, or do you want to go into your team?
No, let's do the Atlantic.
All right. So, getting into the Atlantic, we have 2 matchups that are both within the same political jurisdictions. So the first one is the Battle of Florida. We have the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Florida Panthers, based out of Fort Lauderdale.
This matchup would serve as a great piece of evidence for anyone who wants to argue against this playoff format and
Yep.
go back to the 1-8 system.
Absolutely.
Because the Lightning and the Panthers feels like it should be the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're playing in the first round. I
don't know if I would say the final, but I certainly see where you're coming with.
If they were playing in opposite division brackets, I would have had these. I might have had these two in the conference final.
Interesting.
They've both just been such strong teams this year. Florida
I do agree with you about the playoff brackets. I do agree with you that I'm not a big fan of this new structure.
Yeah, I'm do it at this point. And I get what they're doing. They want to build up divisional rivalries, and they're doing that by having these teams. Like Edmonton and LA have played each other in the playoffs like 90 years in a row at this point. So I get what they're doing, and in the aspect of building up rivalries, it's working. But why are the Lightning and Panthers should be like a third round matchup, not a first round? That being said, Florida is the reigning champions. They've been really good all year. I love Matthew Tkachuk. He needs to come play for the team his father played for.
As long as you preface that with Matthew like you did, that's fine.
Oh, I want both of them. I want both of them wearing the blue note at the same time someday.
Maybe in 10 years.
Yeah, that'll happen. Once they'll do the thing that the Cardinals do, and they'll go trade for the star when they're past their prime and not as good as they used to be. But
yeah.
I do have Tampa winning this series, though. Just going off the playoff experience, I'm kind of leaning on goaltender. This isn't the series I lean heaviest on goaltender for my prediction, but they've still got Vasilevsky. Not only is that dude awesome, he's just large. He takes up a lot of the net.
Yeah.
And they don't have Stamkos, but they've got Kucherov. They've got a lot of these guys that have played in the playoffs so many times.
So it's funny that you argue that. And what you're saying makes sense. But I was thinking when it comes to playoff experience and who's been there, that's exactly what my thought is. And that's why I'm going to pick the Florida Panthers.
Interesting.
This is the defending Cup champion, a team that went very deep 2 years ago and nearly just didn't win it, but they brought the Cup back to Florida in Game 7 last time. We did not get a prediction, though. I'll give you my game number prediction first, and that's Florida in 7 games. This one's going all the way to the end.
This is going to be the best series of the first round, and it's because it has no business being in the first round. And I don't even hate this playoff structure. I would prefer 1 versus 8. But this matchup being in the first round is such a good argument against the playoff structure.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I would say that even though there's another series that I'm probably way more excited for in a few seconds, this has to be the best matchup of this round. I'm sure LA, Edmonton, and the next one will give it some good competition, but...
There's one I'm way more excited for, but I think this will be the most interesting, compelling series.
Nice.
And I think we'll get at least one game where it's just Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky both standing on their head.
Yeah.
And it ends at like 1-0 or 2-1 in overtime or something like. I want a goalie game in this series. I just want to see both of them goalie
that would be great.
The same game. Because they're both so good when they're playing at their best.
And that, we mentioned the Battle of Florida. This brings us to another political jurisdiction battle. The rebuild is over. The Ottawa Senators are back in the playoffs. And do I ever, being in the arena as a grade 2 or 3 at the time, have some bad memories from 2004? The last time that we had the Battle of Ontario, Ottawa against Toronto. I was there a night that we lost to Toronto with 2 minutes left in the game. Ended up losing the series in 7, and it's finally happening again. I cannot wait. I'm just going to go out and say it. Sens in 6. We beat Toronto in all 3 games that we played against them this season.
And last season too, I think.
Yeah, and last season too, that's right. So the regular season certainly on our side. I know Toronto fans love to say we've never lost to Ottawa in the playoffs. You haven't played Ottawa in the playoffs in 20 years because both of us haven't deserved to make it for the past 20 years. Well, not 20 years. In Ottawa's case, we went to 2 third rounds and 1 Stanley Cup final in that period. Toronto doesn't even know what the third round is.
No, but to be fair, they've been better than you guys for the past solid few years.
Congratulations, Leaf fans. You got 4 games in the playoffs for the last 10 years, whatever.
They broke their first round streak in the past couple of years, didn't they? Didn't they win the
first they did once.
Year?
They did once.
To me,
go ahead.
Series isn't. I have Ottawa in 6, but this isn't necessarily about them. If you look at the rosters, and feel free to, I think Toronto clearly has the better roster. At least they've got Matthews, they've got Tavares, they've got Marner, they've got Matthew Nyes, who's an underrated good piece. But can they get this monkey off of their back? They're always a good team in the regular season with this crew. And I think they might be losing Marner soon because they're not going to want to pay him more than they pay Matthews. And I think another team will be willing to pay him more than they will.
Are we ready for a free agency prediction that Bruce is going to hate?
What?
Marner's going to the Chicago Blackhawks next year.
That's fine. They'll still be bottom. They'll have, 2 players at that point?
Yeah.
Bedard, who gets talked about way more than he probably should. And Marner, Marner's a great player. I just don't think Toronto is going to want to pay him what they pay Matthews.
Right. And I think that's the big thing in this series is you're right. Toronto's roster and Ottawa's roster is very different. Ottawa's roster, and why I think Ottawa will win this series, is built first line through fourth line. Toronto's putting so much of their cap into 2 or 3 players, and the rest of the team is just not a playoff team.
Yeah. Who's their goalie? I keep going to goalies so heavily. I don't know why, but
I will get that for you in just a second.
I will say, and I'm the only person who cares about this series that will say it. I'm rooting for an Ottawa because one of my closest friends is an Ottawa Senators fan.
Hi.
But if Toronto wins, I might root for them in their next rounds because their coach is Craig Berube, who was the coach of the Blues for a while, my favorite coach ever. Brought the cup to St. Louis for the first time when he took over mid-season. So I'm rooting for Ottawa to win, but if Toronto wins, I'm rooting for Chief. And I think the Leafs have Noel Acciari, who briefly played for the Blues.
The goalie is Anthony Stoilitz.
So you guys have the advantage there.
Yeah. I mean, Linus Ullmark has just been amazing since we've traded for him from Boston.
Yeah.
Top 5 great goalie in the league.
It goes back to what we were talking about in the last series, playoff experience.
Yeah.
He kind of shared a net with Jeremy Swayman. He wasn't the starter, but he knows what the playoffs look like. And with hockey, the playoffs are a complete level up from the regular season.
Absolutely.
So I have Ottawa winning in 6, but it's not necessarily about Ottawa. It's because I don't trust Toronto with their history.
Fair.
I will say, I like the Ottawa logo on the jersey you're wearing right now better than their current logo.
Fair. This one was from around when I was in high school, so it would have been like when we went to the final in 2007.
Yeah. They've gone back to an older logo in the past couple of years, and it's cool.
Yeah,
I don't think it's as cool.
fair enough. So you mentioned the Dallas Colorado series. Want to go there next, and then we'll wrap up with the
Yeah,
Blues?
so I have a predict before we get to the second round. Well, we have the Central Division.
Yeah.
This is the series where I'm the least confident in my prediction. I chose Dallas because my mind went, you know what? I think they're technically the higher seed. Jake Ottinger is better than Mackenzie Blackwood or Scott Wedgwood.
Yeah.
And Colorado was great with trades this year. They went out and got Blackwood and Wedgwood, who are both upgrades over Georgiev, who was in goal for them.
Yeah.
I think Ottinger steals them a series. I don't like Jamie Benn, but Jamie Benn is a solid player on Dallas's offense. Him and Tyler Seguin have a chemistry. I really can't name a ton of Dallas stars other than those three, but Dallas always becomes a really good team when I watch them play against the Blues.
They
So
do.
the reason I'm not super confident in that pick is Colorado has an all-star team. They've got their two M's that everyone knows about. They've got McKinnon, they've got McCarr, but they might have their captain Gabriel Landeskog coming back. May or may
Yeah.
not be playing for the first
We will
time
see.
since they won the Stanley Cup in 2022. He's been playing in the minor leagues this week, so we'll see. They went and brought Eric Johnson back on their defense at the deadline. They went and got, what's his name, Charlie Coyle
Yeah.
from Boston. That team is frightening. They have an
They
all-star
are.
almost, but I've just got this gut feeling about Dallas.
Okay. So this might be where the most different. I'm going to go Colorado in 5.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm just kind of going off of my gut with this one, and Ottinger steals a series.
Yeah. It could go either way. That's going to be a very evenly matched series that even though I'm picking it only being 5 games, I could see a lot of 1-goal games in this series.
Yeah.
All right, moving to the final one, we have Bruce's Bruce's St. Louis Blues against the Winnipeg Jets.
I have, and
That was a total mess up, by the way.
no, you're fine. I'm trying to not be biased with this, but I do have the Blues winning in 7.
Interesting.
And the thing is the thing that concerns me with the Blues is Dylan Holloway is out right now. And by the way, I texted you a couple weeks ago just telling you that like the online representation of Edmonton fans was kind of insufferable to me. A lot of them, when we signed Holloway and Broberg to offer sheets, was, oh, they're not worth the money you gave them. They chose money over winning, kind of trashing the move. Holloway and Broberg have been incredible for us this year.
Yeah.
They're out right now, but Winnipeg is also injured right now. So I'm trying to look up their roster. I heard this today. They've got two. Ehlers is one, and I don't remember who the other one is. There's Ehlers, and there's another one of like their top 1 or 2 line forwards that are going to be out, and I think they may be just as banged up, if not more, than we are.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the Blues have to control the middle of the ice, clog up the neutral zone, and in transition, don't let the Winnipeg come up the middle of the ice. Don't give up a ton of rushes, which they haven't since Jim Montgomery took over. But the other thing is Connor Hellebuck is incredible. He's an MVP candidate. He leads every goalie category. He's not the same guy in the playoffs the past couple of years. And we've seen him and Jordan Binnington go head-to-head at Four Nations, and Jordan Binnington outplayed Connor Hellebuck. Binner has been complete up and down this year. We've seen some really great games and some really awful games from him. He's not as consistently good as he was last year, but anytime that dude gets into a playoffs or anytime there's bright lights on him, that dude unlocks some other level that I don't get. So I'm kind of counting
Yeah.
on that to happen here.
And you know that I am not one of these Canadians who didn't want him to play. I think he's easily the best goalie we
No,
have.
people just don't like him because his personality
Binnington
is
won the
aggressive.
Four Nations. He's going to win gold for us in the Olympics next year. But this is Canada's game, and Winnipeg, I think this year is the strongest Canadian team of the five that made the playoffs. I'm going to pick the Jets in five.
Wow, so you don't think it's a close series either?
I do not think this is that close.
Winnipeg's not the same team in the playoffs they are in the regular season, though.
We will see.
At least I kind of want to look it up now, but like the past couple seasons, I feel like they've been first or second round exits.
But this year, they're the best team in the league going into the playoffs.
True, President's Trophy winners aren't always so hot though.
As an Ottawa fan, I know that very well.
Neither team winning this series would surprise me. I'm not surprised you picked Edmonton. I'm surprised at the 5 games, honestly. Because I think this is a really close. We've played them close this year when we play them, so I think they steal the series.
So hopefully it goes longer, and hopefully for you guys, you get through. But I have them going pretty far.
Yeah, hopefully we get Holloway back. That would make a huge difference going forward as well.
Yeah.
They scared me with our last game. Robert Thomas left during the game and didn't come back, but Jim, at that point we had basically won the game, and Jim Montgomery has said that was preventative more than anything. So
absolutely. So where should we go to now?
Second round. Do we just want to stay in the division we're in and go forward from there?
Sounds great. So you have St. Louis against Dallas.
I do think, and again, this isn't me being biased. I genuinely believe the analysis I gave for why I think the Blues can steal the Winnipeg series. And I'm kind of counting on Winnipeg doing what they usually do in the playoffs. I don't see us doing it twice. I think Dallas beats us. Let me look up how many games that one was in. Oh, it didn't ask me for how many games beyond after the first round.
That's okay.
Dallas beats us in 5 or 6, though. I don't think we score 7.
So this is interesting because if let's say it was the first round and it was you guys against Dallas, I would have went with the Blues.
We just don't play Dallas well.
Fair. But so you're going to go, you said Dallas in 5 or 6 against the Blues. I have the complete opposite series, Winnipeg against Colorado now, and I'm going to go for the Jets in 6.
If your series happens, I'll be rooting for Winnipeg for sure.
I think you would root for anybody in the playoffs over the Avalanche, if I read you correct.
And it's not just a Kroenke thing. That's a big part of it. And it's not just the Nazem Kadri intentionally, in my opinion, taking out Jordan Binnington in the playoffs one year.
Yeah.
Also hit Justin Falk in the head in previous. Nazem Kadri has a history of dirty playoff hits, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
Nazem Kadri is born in Ottawa and played for the Leafs, so you know my opinions on it. Right there.
I can't stand that. But also, we always struggle against them, except for the past couple games we played them in the regular season this year. McKinnon and McCarr are exhausting. They always pretty much get whatever they want against us. And I hear those two guys get talked about way too often. Not as often as I hear about Shohei Ohtani, but almost. By hockey standard. I'm just tired of them. I don't like playing against them. They scare me.
So you
can't stand their owner. We have a bad history against them in the playoffs. They're my second least favorite team in the league. I don't like them. And
since you're bringing up another sport in terms of the owner, I'm just going to throw this out there so that you're going to be very happy if you don't already know. we're about 1 week away from Liverpool clinching the Premier League title, and Arsenal will be stuck in second again for the 5th year running.
Nice. And we have Arsenal finish low enough to get relegated to the minor leagues and get.
That would be ideal.
That's a thing, right? If you finish low enough, don't you play in the minor leagues the next season?
Yep, the bottom 3 teams drop into the second division.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
I mean,
Manchester United is only a few points up on getting dropped into the second division right now.
I have like beef reasons for not liking Colorado, but it's also just they're so freaking good and their roster is so stacked, and I hate playing against McKinnon and McCarr because they scare me.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so your first team into the conference finals is Dallas minus Winnipeg. Moving on, we both picked Vegas. So in your case, it's going to be a battle of the Southwest. Las Vegas, Nevada against Los Angeles, California.
Those start times are going to... And I am glad the Blues got wild card 2 because, first off, because I'm more confident playing Winnipeg than I would be playing Dallas because Winnipeg kind of chokes in the playoffs recently. Vegas always shows up strong in the playoffs. The other reason I'm glad we're playing Winnipeg is I don't want those Pacific Division start times at all.
Yeah, not at least not till the third round.
But Vegas and the Kings, maybe 6 games. Vegas, maybe the Kings push it to 6 games. I think Vegas is just their roster is overwhelming. They've got the star power. They've got the first, second line guys and the big name goalie. But their third and their fourth lines are also really strong, like the grinders that don't get talked about as much. Alex Pietrangelo is still an annoyingly good defenseman when you're playing against him. I wish he still played here. I miss you, Petro. But the Kings are hot. I just think Vegas is too overwhelming of a roster.
Makes sense. So you're going to say a Dallas-Vegas Western final.
Yeah.
I have in this one, it's a Vegas-Edmonton game or series, not Vegas-LA. So there's a lot more travel time in that than a little hop down Route 66. You're now instead going to Northern Alberta, and I'm going to say there'll be a lot of flying in this series because it's going all the way to 7 games. Wow. And I am going for the winner to be the city of champions, Edmonton, Alberta.
How is that the city of champions?
Edmonton calls itself the city of champions. I guess the American audience would have never heard that before.
I haven't heard it before, but also
because they won the
great run with Gretzky. But when's the last time Edmonton won the cup?
It's with Gretzky.
Okay.
But when Edmonton had that great run with Gretzky, they were also dominating the Grey Cup, which is Canadian football. So that's why they picked up the name.
I mean, that's fair, but
they were winning everything in the same years.
You're the city of champions from decades ago. Honestly, I don't mind the Oilers. A couple of nights ago when they beat us in overtime. No, it wasn't overtime. It was like 20 seconds before overtime, and we were in a playoff hunt. So that's why I was annoyed. I'm kind of over McDavid lately because he's beaten us twice pretty single-handedly.
Yeah.
But I like them as a team. So their fans on Reddit and a little bit on Twitter are obnoxious, but if you've listened to our show, you know I don't always agree with Survivor Twitter. Hockey Twitter is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Edmonton fans, I don't know them. They're not like the worst fan base. They're just kind of insufferable when they're beating you.
Now, isn't that funny with all the drama that our two countries have been having with right around the time of the Four Nations and how heated those games got? that you have a Texas Nevada Western Final and I have a Manitoba Alberta Western Final.
Also, speaking of four nations, freaking McDavid ripped my heart out there too. So
But Bennington got his win.
I know I was very happy for Binner because like you saw it as much as I did online. Like the noise around him was really loud because people unfairly blamed him for the game that America beat Canada.
Yeah.
But I was really happy for him. But man, beating Canada in a best on best hockey tournament would have felt so good. And McDavid ripped my heart out there.
Well, we'll have a rematch
Made the
next year.
assist on the game winning goal when we played them recently. And back in February, my mom and I went to a Blues versus Edmonton game. And he had an assist on a Draisaitl goal that tied it and sent it to overtime. He might have had a hand in the overtime winner. I don't remember. But
we'll have a rematch next year between Canada and USA over in Italia.
Yeah. It's not like the McKinnon McCarr where I'm like tired of it to the level where I don't like your team.
Yeah.
But McDavid keeps doing things that I don't like, and I like him. He rips my heart out though.
All right. So next, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we agreed on this next matchup: Washington, New Jersey.
We did agree on that.
All right. So it's the one matchup here in the second round that we're both saying the exact same two teams will play each other. I really want to pick an upset here, but I'm not going to. I think this will be a really fun series to watch. I think it might test out Washington a bit more than Montreal did. I mean,
doesn't mean much. I
fair.
don't think. We'll see.
Know me from Tribal Council chat. I have an attachment to picking players from New Jersey, but from everything that I've gathered online, I think that Michelle and her family are more Rangers fans than they are Devils fans. So no bias towards the Devils here coming from the Survivor background. So I'm going to go for the Capitals again in 5 games.
Yeah. I think it goes maybe 6. I don't think it goes 7, but it'll be a lot closer than the Caps and the Habs were for sure. And I like the Habs, but they're not going to be a challenge for Washington.
Fair. And now moving on to the last series of the semifinal, we have the Atlantic final, where we have a difference. It's definitely going to be, as we mentioned before, a team from Ontario and a team from Florida playing each other. We already know that. There's no way around it. But you have it, and we both have the Ottawa Senators, but you have them playing the Tampa Bay Lightning. I have them playing the Florida Panthers.
By the way, I looked it up. The last 2 playoffs, Winnipeg has gone out in 5 games in the first round. Now, they weren't the President's Trophy winner either.
That's it.
They were Central 2 last year, I think.
Yeah.
Wild Card 2 the year before that. But
yeah.
Hellebuck was this guy the last couple of years during the regular season. So,
fair.
No, Ottawa and Tampa. Again, I picked Ottawa. It wasn't as much because I had a ton of confidence in Ottawa. It's just because I think Toronto has this weird playoff curse monkey on their back.
Yep.
I think Tampa beats them here in maybe 5, I'll say. Sense. Just like I said, Vasilevsky and net is a huge difference maker. He's a bit on the older side, but Nikita Kucherov is still there. He's still solid. Let me look up him this year. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope Ottawa makes a series of this, but I think this is likely to go 5 games.
Tampa won this series 2-1 during the season.
Kucherov is 31 years old and had 37 goals and 84 assists this year,
Interesting.
which were tied for 13th in the league in goals, tied for first in assists, and first in points at 121 points.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that if they play Tampa. But good for me in my bracket, Ottawa's not playing Tampa. I have Ottawa playing Florida, a team that out of 3 games they beat twice this year. And I also have this. We remember you saying just a moment ago, well, a few minutes ago, but that Florida Tampa could easily be an Eastern final. I had that going to a 7-game series, and I think that's going to make the difference here. I'm going to pick Ottawa in 6 again.
Wow, that would be a huge upset. Ottawa with little to no playoff experience lately, other than, I mean, Olmark still, but he wasn't the main starter.
No.
Taking out the reigning champs. That
I
would
think
be wild.
Florida is.
Have happened, for sure.
They have. I think Florida, after playing such, like you say about the structure of the playoffs, I think Florida's biggest downfall here and what's really going to help Ottawa get to that final, Eastern final, is the fact that it's such a competitive series in round 1 that is just going to destroy them.
Yeah. And again,
we don't have a lot of playoff experience, but what we do have is the young kids that are very quick, a great goalie.
If it was a 1 through 8 structure, Florida and Tampa would probably be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
They play in the first round. So I think there might be something to what you're saying, that Florida's just going to be exhausted.
Yeah. But we'll see which team ends up getting there. So now we have the final. That means that you have Tampa, Washington, Dallas, and Las Vegas. So you say that the streak continues and that the Stanley Cup will be south of the 48th parallel, I think it is. I want to make sure I don't mix up what the latitude and longitude is of the Canadian-American border versus the North-South Korean border. That will not happen.
The streak of 30, whatever, I think 32 years in a row will continue.
Yep, 32 years. Montreal in 1993 was the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. I, in contrast, have one hope for you guys, and that's your nation's capital, Washington, in a semifinal with Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Edmonton.
Yeah.
And so do you want to start with, you have Washington, Tampa, I think it is? Yeah.
Yeah. Couple things. I had Dallas beating the Blues. If the Blues get there and it's Dallas, I would not be shocked if we beat them. I don't want to come off as being too biased, so I erred on the side of realistic. But Washington and Tampa, I want to give a shout out to Washington because they were second in the league this year, tops in the East. Nobody saw that coming preseason.
Yeah, no one did see that coming.
And Ovechkin is in his upper 30s, I think, and scored upper 30s, maybe 40 goals this year. So I think they're going to keep that going. I think they go to the Cup Finals. Tampa's a really strong team. I think this goes 6 or 7, but nice. Washington moves on.
Yeah, I have to make sure that I'm not too biased by any means. Ovechkin is just too good. The history he made this year. Whoever thought Washington would be this team that they are coming in? Ottawa did. If Ottawa gets to the third round, that's amazing, having not been in the playoffs. I think that living in Ottawa, most people are internally just amazed to see that this team made the playoffs.
That's
out loud, knowing that what we expect is to beat the Maple Leafs because they're the Maple Leafs. and anything after that is a bonus. And if we can make a cup run to the third round, well done, guys. Ottawa and Montreal are two teams I think you're gonna be looking at maybe finishing much higher in the years to come than they are in the wild card spots. I'm gonna go Washington in 5.
It's kind of the same thing with us as far as the Blues are on house money at this point. I don't think we were I thought they would. My predictions were off because I thought they'd make the playoffs with Drew Bannister as coach.
Yeah.
Like this season got off to a bad start before they made the coaching change to Monty. So they're on house money at this point. They had the 12-game win streak. I think they can beat Edmonton. I don't think that's unrealistic.
Yep.
But if they lose, oh well. Like we've been in a retool. We've missed the playoffs the last 2 years. Just being there, I'm thrilled with.
Absolutely.
In the West, I have Vegas beating Dallas in again 5, maybe 6 tops. I don't see it going 7. Dallas is a good team. I don't think there's anything they're better than Vegas at position-wise. Maybe you take Ottinger over Leonard, but it's not a disparaging gap either way.
Yeah.
Their offense is loaded. Their defense is really good. They're so overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go to the West. I obviously have a completely different bracket than you do. And this is where I'm going to once again go for goaltending and defense. And it's going to be the Winnipeg Jets into the Stanley Cup final in 7 games.
If Hellebuck shows up like he does in the regular season, I could see your prediction coming true. Yeah. I just don't trust him in the playoffs.
Fair.
The way I do other guys.
So we both have Washington in the final, but you have a final, you said, between Washington and Vegas. Is that correct? Yeah. And I have Washington, Winnipeg. Do you want me to
go ahead? Winnipeg's in the Central Division, so are they kind of in the middle of the map?
Winnipeg is effectively straight north of St. Louis.
Cool. So the travel schedule for my Stanley Cup final, if it happens, would be terrible.
Yeah.
Traveling between the East Coast and the West Coast. Yours is at least a little reasonable. East Coast to middle of the map.
Like Winnipeg is just north of Minneapolis.
Yeah, that travel between there and Washington wouldn't be bad.
No, it wouldn't be horrible.
Vegas technically not on the coast, but I'm going to say you're traveling between the East Coast and the West Coast anyway.
You are. I've flown from New York to Vegas and from Toronto to Vegas before, and from Calgary to Vegas. Let's just say they're all far.
Yeah.
So, do you want to give your final prediction first, or do you want me to go?
I'll go. So, Vegas, I think I was going to say they probably have the best roster in the whole playoffs, but Colorado. So, but I've been harping on Vegas has, logically speaking, they just have this overwhelming roster that works great together. But my gut is telling me Washington for some reason. I don't really have a ton of analysis why, but I'm going with the Capitals here, even though Vegas is probably a better team.
Interesting. How many games?
7. I'll make it fun.
Nice. So, yeah, I like that prediction. It would definitely be such a historic moment if Washington did win. I actually think if your prediction happens in this way, Ovechkin might change his mind of what he said today and go out as a champion.
I could see that, but I also, like, as good as he still is, I could see him wanting to chase 1,000 goals.
Yeah.
But them winning the Cup in the 895 season would be so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other hand, I'm going to say he's going to come back because the Stanley Cup champion is coming from north of the border, and it's going to Winnipeg, Manitoba in 6 games.
Fair. Not unreasonable.
how much, if I'm right, I just want to think about this aspect. Back when the Atlanta Thrashers existed, how much money could have you bet in England to say that the next Canadian Stanley Cup champion would be a team that doesn't even exist yet?
Yeah. Bring the
You could have
Thrashers
won
back.
thousands.
There are people that think Atlanta should be an expansion team if they expand again, and they've already failed twice. So
Yeah. Vive le Quebec Nordique.
they also failed.
Once, not twice.
Not twice, but
And have you seen the building that exists in Quebec City now, though?
of course I haven't.
Oh, this, trust me, they wouldn't fail again, but the league doesn't want to give them a chance.
I have a Nordiques hat I bought when I went to Colorado, though.
Oh, nice.
And as much as I don't like the Avs for previously stated reasons, I like their colors and their jerseys.
Yeah.
And when the first time the NHL did reverse retros, the Avs did like a Nordiques logo in Avs colors, and it was
wow,
cool looking.
That would be. I'll have to look that up online.
I'll see if I can find it. I feel like the people of Quebec probably hated it, but
So you're saying that it's going to be a Washington victory, and I'm going for a Winnipeg victory. That wraps it all up. But we will see how this goes, and maybe every couple of weeks on Tribal Council Chat when we get to a new round, see how each other are doing.
for sure. I'm sending you a picture of this jersey, by the way.
Oh, nice.
And with that being, well, I was going to say grab your torches and head back to camp. We don't have torches, so...
No, we don't have torches. Grab your sticks, and everybody is against Toronto. Knock them out.
Goodbye, everyone.